of the Winning Plays podcast. The season is here. Real basketball is here. Chris Forsberg of NBC Sports
Real
Boston is
basketball.
here. I
Real
don't know.
basketball.
Well, this is actually a good place to start. That opener against the Sixers, that was the most intense preseason game I've seen, which isn't saying much, but like from the crowd to like guys actually trying that are regulars, like that was like, it was almost jarring to start things off here.
I think I loved when Joe wouldn't sub in the bus one gang because Jalen got hot and he wanted to rally ahead. And then it was ridiculous how loud it got when O'Shea had that putback dunk. And yeah, it's so that was a fun one. And then we downshift last night with night two, which you knew was going to happen because the preseason schedule is ridiculous. But maybe a good opportunity because as I'm sure we're going to get into, it is kind of fun. Everyone likes backup quarterbacks, and we obsess about spots 7 through 10 way more than we probably should. So yeah, like I guess if I was eager to see some of those guys, so hopefully the rest of the viewing public was as well.
All right, so this is the Winning Plays podcast, powered by FanDuel here. You mentioned some of those, so I'm going to give you the choice. You're the guest here. Do we want to start with the big names on Sunday night, or do we want to talk with like the fun, gritty, like 8 through 15 roster battles that we got a closer look at on Monday night? Like this is...
I guess I'm always a sucker for recency, so let's go with the 7 through 10, and then we'll like circle back at the end and be like, oh yeah, the guys that actually.
The two guys the team is betting their future on the entire season. Yeah, we'll get to them later. But first, let's talk about Peyton Pritchard. No, not even Peyton Pritchard. Peyton Pritchard has graduated from this category now of the. I feel like is he safely number 7?
Not only is he safely number 7, I'm pretty sure. Like I was telling you in the locker room, he's listed as the latest shooting time among players, at least for game 1, and maybe those will change. I don't know, but he might not even be a bus 1 boy anymore. He can kind of show up and roll in late. Do what he does, and then do his shooting. I assume he's still gonna ride with that crew and still be super early to the gym and still be super motivated. But yeah, I thought that was interesting that that Peyton Pritchard has a little bit of a later shooting time, at least to start the year. And yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. But yeah, I would say he's fair to be 7. I mean, that should be Hauser or Cornette too, like based on what we saw last year. But they've struggled out of the gates, and so they've got to pick it up.
It is, and I mean, we haven't even talked obviously since the extension for Pritchard that came out on Monday right before 4 years, $30 million. To me, I was honestly kind of shocked to see those numbers, given where the cap is going. And I know, again, this is a late first round pick, a guy who's been in and out of the rotation, but there's a lot of buzz around him this summer in terms of opportunity and warranted. Clearly, with these, we're putting all the stock into the first 2 preseason performances. But no, like this is a guy that they honestly, in hindsight, probably should have stuck with more last year and maybe used their resources elsewhere rather than bringing in a upgrade with Malcolm Brogdon that ended up being just a little too pricey and didn't work out for a number of reasons. But now to lock him in at 7.5 per year for the next 4 years, like if he does break out, that is either going to be a great weapon for your bench for a long time here when you need it, when you need cheap talent here, or B, a nice little trade chip. Maybe not for now, but certainly like they're going to be low on those, and so that's either way. It's I think should look like I think it's a home run move by this team.
Really good for Brad, right? Like there's no downside to me. Like even if he fizzles, if for whatever he just doesn't get on the court, $7.5 million for a guy that should be like a rotation caliber guard feels pretty good. And if it's like you preface it by saying if he's the 7th guy, like 5% of the salary cap next year, like that's ridiculous because the Celtics are committed to like $1 billion in the top 4 guys on their roster. So it would be huge if you could find a low budget, even if he's the 8th, 9th man, whatever it is. Like if he's competing for potential playoff minutes, which I don't think there'll be a lot of. And, last season, it was hard for them to necessarily find consistent minutes for 3 guards. And you suspect that Jrue and Derek White's going to play more. So I don't think he's going to have a huge role here, but he's going to get every opportunity to eat some minutes there as the 3rd guard. And the 7.5 annual average, it sounds like really low. Like I Peyton as a player who's typically banked on himself, Kind of like trusting that he's gonna find his role and get that. I know that there's some security in that in case things go crazy or wrong. But really feels like a home run for the Celtics in terms of just eliminating that potential distraction.
Yeah, he was clearly, when we talked to him Sunday night about it, he was clearly, and I was trying to use it, sound like a guy that like he just wanted that security. He's like, I just want to like not, and that's totally fair. I mean, we thought, oh yeah, it's a cheap deal. If you're a late first round pick, you get $30 million guaranteed. That's life changing money. That's fantastic money for a guy who his career has been, up and down to this point with factors beyond his control. But at the same time, there was certainly the upside for a lot more there for him. But he just wanted, like, what would you do? Would you be a locked in type guy? Would you take the sure thing money, or would you reach for the stars and try to get that mid level money?
It's so easy for me to sit here and be like, you bet on yourself and try to play it out, and yet, man, you're one torn ACL away from a very murky future, and so. If my agent comes to me and says, look, we've looked at the landscape of the league. I don't know necessarily what there's going to be out there for a 6'1" point guard, third guard on a really good team. But like, I guess the flip side of that is like, we always overvalue guys that are pieces on a championship team. I mean, Bruce Brown deserves that money, but like, look at the money people signed for this offseason, right? And I think if things break the right way, Peyton will maybe look back and be like, I could have got a little bit more money, maybe up to mid-level money, maybe even better. I don't know. Like, and yet, is the risk of that worth potentially passing up $30 million and securing your future? Probably not. So I go back to it. One thing Brad Stevens really loves is everyone sort of having their mind fixated on the task ahead, and now there's no distraction. Like everything that could have been a distraction coming into the year, I mean, Malcolm obviously with the situation. I would put Robb's health somewhat in there, even though you still worry about a little bit with your bigs. You can't have it perfect. And Peyton's attitude, like in terms of if he didn't play, and wanting maybe another trade. So just every distraction there, Brad is trying to stiff arm them in every direction.
It is. It's jarring on that front. So there you go. So that's Peyton Pritchard. No surprises really, just as good as a start to the preseason you could hope for if you're the Celtics after signing him to that deal here on both ends of the floor. He actually, 3 steals against Knicks last night. It's been pretty frisky on that end. Out of the 8 through 15 last night, who stuck out to you? Who intrigues you for the 100 minutes a season that might be available to them?
Yeah, it's funny. I was doing the post-game pod. I was trying, because I know Ryan, posted something like there's probably 500 minutes available, and I was trying to do the quick math in my head, and maybe I'm factoring in spot 7 too. We're talking what 500 to 1,000 minutes total of like.
But think about the injuries though. Like injuries could change things in a hurry for this group.
And that's where I come down to. It's like if you were gonna, and I guess it comes down to what is Joe gonna do? Joe has talked a lot about trying to reintegrate with that group 7 through 10 after maybe ignoring them last year. It's Grant Williams nods feverishly and Peyton Pritchard nods feverishly, like yes, like he forgot about us a little bit. But do I trust that Joe is actually not gonna play Jason and Jalen 40 minutes a night and like on a random Wednesday against the Magic? Hell no, the guy wants to win, and like he's already said like he wants to be, that he's got to be better about that stuff. But it's a lot easier, like I said, a lot easier to say it than to go out there and do it. So, but let's say like you just need somebody to help get you through the regular season. Like I'm not going to lose my mind over Cornette and Hauser being not good through the first 2 games. Hauser missing 13 of his 15 3-pointers, and Luke grabbing I think 5 rebounds and 30 something minutes on the court. Not great. But they've sort of proven. I think they'll be in that mix, and they're gonna be better than what we've seen. Some of the pieces that maybe we didn't know about, like O'Shea, I factored him in because you need guys behind Jason and Jalen, but I really love I'll keep comparing him to Nesmith in terms of like the way he crashes the glass, a little less reckless, but sort of better discipline in terms of grit and defense, and I'm also biased because I like the YouTube videos. Shout out. He put a little chunk of our our media day interview in there. So everybody go check
There you
out
go.
Brissy TV. And he's scooping me on my own interview, so good for him. And Banton last night, honestly, and B-Rob, I probably said this over the summer, like because he was non-guaranteed and we didn't get a lot to really see him at summer league. I just sort of wrote off whether he'd be part of this team. People over the summer told me that he was really intriguing, that blend of size. And man, he was fearless. Like he was going right at those bigs last night at the rim. I did not think we'd have a Banton 20-point game in the first days of the season, and so I'm pretty good with the wing depth. It just comes down to the big man is going to be what we obsess about, and is Cornette, and I don't think Wenyan and Gabriel put his best foot forward last night and looked a little too hyped. So that's where I come down. Like I think they're more set at the guard position than I thought they would be. I'm comfortable with the bigs. Lamar Stevens, I should throw in there too. Like Lamar and O'Shea look like they are ready to just play that role. I don't know how much I don't know if they'll both play. I don't know if they'll both play every night, but I like where they're at. And it's just on Hauser and Cornette to get back to what they've been.
Yeah, I mean, I think you broke that down nicely. Like the intriguing thing for me of like the Stevens and Brissett angle here is like, okay, if Hauser isn't shooting, then probably one of those guys is going to play over him, and they're going to, especially if they're starting big, because that means Derek White's coming off the bench. You can play him and Pritchard together. That's probably enough shooting, and going like a gritty energy guy in there with like Tatum and one other starter. That could be a formidable unit there. So that's the intriguing part of me. And the other wild card here that you didn't mention is like someone like Svi coming in. If Hauser isn't shooting, like that is a Hauser alternative if you still want the extra spacing out there. Obviously, he doesn't have as much. It's a little smaller than Hauser is, but clearly is an alternative option on that front. If Hauser, again, this is 2 games here, Hauser's going to have the spot in the rotation to start the year. I think that's pretty safe to say, but it's more of like if things don't turn for him, after the first couple weeks of the year, that could be an intriguing subplot. I feel like.
I did think it was interesting that Svi didn't play in the opener. That
right.
Joe tipped his hand a little bit. Like these are the 10, 11 guys 10. That we're kind of thinking about. Credit to Svi because he has a bad night last night, and we're all sitting here saying, is he going to go overseas instead? Like he's another one of those non-guaranteed guys. But I mean, I didn't know he had that sneaky athleticism. That little lob dunk. We were busting Eddie House's chops. We've never seen a 50 get up like that in a Boston uniform. So it was fun to see that. And if he knocks down shots, I do like the secondary playmaking. He can like drive a closeout way better than Hauser can at this point. And so I think there's a chance for him to stick. It gets murky. Like if you had to pick 2 of those 3 wings to carry now, so I'm going to put Svi, O'Shea, and Lamar in the wing category. Who are you taking?
Probably Svi and O'Shea, I guess. Like just I always default to like shooting. Like to me, O'Shea and Lamar are both good. They're probably both going to make this team, but that's redundant. Like it's hard to see them both playing together. So if there's not a whole lot of reliable shooting off that bench right now, that can be addressed. But in my mind, if Svi makes shots and Hauser isn't making shots, like he feels pretty safe about his spot in this team.
I think that's fair. I mean, I wouldn't argue with any of that. It did feel redundant when they added Lamar, and O'Shea is sort of very similar players. But I just think they have a little bit more. Both have sort of proven little bit more than Svi has.
Without a doubt.
And but then I think about the coach, and the coach loves shooting, and so if he's going to default to someone, he's probably more likely to lean on Svi than the 2 guys who I don't know if I'd want them taking shots. Like I guess if they're super open, and invariably they're going to have to test defenses. But if they're out there with any combination of Jason, Jalen, Jrue, and Porzingis, let those guys take the shots. So maybe that makes a defensive-minded player a little more valuable to carry when they have that serviceable skill set.
Yeah, to be honest, I feel like all of them should feel really good right now. Like the Celtics don't have to cut anyone. They have a ton of flexibility with these non-guaranteed deals, where if they want to make a trade or they see someone get waived in a couple weeks that they like, they can pounce and cut ties with a lot of these guys with no backlash. But at the same time, like all those guys we just talked about, those three I think should feel pretty secure. I'd be surprised if anyone's playing elsewhere, especially since they'll flow contracts don't get guaranteed till later in the year. I don't think so. Like they can still start the season with them, and then if they want to make a change or two later, they'll still be in the cards here. Any final thoughts on the low man before we talk about the studs?
I love that. No, I just think I agree. Like, I mean, there's gonna be another game in this preseason where all those guys will get a chance, and we'll see what they can do. But yeah, probably about what I expected. It's just Hauser and Cornette got to be better.
And Cornette, I mean, I don't know. Cornette should feel good, but at the same time, like they're gonna address that position at some point. Like, and it's a matter of, and he'll get a chance before they do, probably in all likelihood, if barring some disaster next couple of weeks. But that's something. The position we'll have weeks and months to talk about that down the line. But the time will wait for that for Luke to bounce back here. All right, Jrue or Porzingis, who gets you more riled up after that opener?
Porzingis by like a mile.
Yeah, I mean,
and that part of that is just yeah. I mean, like Jrue. It's so funny, right? Because take a step back, and the hype went from high to really, really high when Jrue arrived, and understandably so. They just felt like, okay, they were close and they were definitely in the mix, but now you're as talented as anybody in the league. But then you see Porzingis on the court, and I think it was just kind of forgotten because it was such an early in the offseason move. I kept, part of me spent much of the summer wondering, like, how's he going to look and how does he fit in there? And then 20 seconds into his first game, he's catching the little feed from Tatum on the wing and splashing a three, and had an alley-oop and threw over the top of a defense at one point. And it's like, wow, like the looks he's going to get, the looks he's going to create for other people, the gravity that he has because, everyone is so locked on the Jays, like coming off a screen, like this could be really good for them. And I think Jrue's going to impact you a lot winning wise. And I think his personality and the needing that locker room guy, but from like impact on the game, Porzingis really intrigues me. I mean, just I keep saying it. Take every look that Marcus Smart got, and now give it to a 7'3" guy who is going to get even like it's just going to be an even better look. And if he stays healthy, man, they're in a really good position.
Yeah, especially from the chemistry standpoint, clearly not there. I mean, which is totally expected a week into camp here, but they still were getting great looks, like despite that, like the offense being like clunky in the half court at times with that starting group out there. But yeah, it is the passing ability that he has shown some of. We really haven't seen much of that. And I mean, it's funny, just like his career has been such a roller coaster ride where he was so much hype in New York, turned into, an afterthought in Dallas. They pretty much gave him away. And then the, kind of redemption season last year in Washington that no one was paying attention to because that team was irrelevant, to now it's like full circle. Okay, can this, like, you're playing on your best team ever, you're gonna have more eyes on you than ever, and obviously the upside could be as good as ever. And the fact that the quality of those looks like you talked about is going to be tremendous all year long. It's like, wow, they could really be pretty fun to watch when they get going and they figure out what they want to do with each other.
He's the early leader in my guy that could potentially replace my Rob Love for the.
And I haven't brought that up to this point yet. Like, I've been afraid. Like, it's been a couple weeks. We've kept our distance here. I don't want to like bring on any more pain here.
That's okay.
Need to. So, but that's interesting. That is like the man that the fact they got Porzingis probably let them open the door to moving Rob in the first place. But that might be the man who's taking his spot.
Taking my heart as well.
Wow.
I don't know. I'm not ready to commit to anything yet. Coming out of a long-term relationship with Robert Williams, but Scal did admit that I might just need like a bounce back guy player to kind of go into this season. And right now watching if I have a thing for oft injured big men, maybe it makes sense to see how it goes with the Porzingis foray.
That Daniel Tice acquisition is coming down the pike. So you can hold off on that.
Fair.
Wait for a couple more months, and then that will be the Porzingis insurance in that front. Before we close up here, I mean, and we'll talk about Jrue a little bit, but this kind of, obviously works into it. Starting lineup, looking like, seeming to be. Don't read into anything. Joe Mazzulla says, "Okay, guess what? This is our job to read into stuff. So too bad. We're looking into your lineups here. It looks like you still want to start double big, at least to start the year with Jrue." Jrue came off the bench. Is there any percent chance Jrue Holiday comes off the bench to start the season? I feel like that's probably no. It's not to zero. So assuming they go double big, Derek White will be the guy coming off the bench there. What are your thoughts on that? And is that a lineup built to last? Or is that just something to make everyone's feelings good start the year? Because Derek obviously won't care either way.
Right. And I honestly think that's what it comes down to is like Derek is the path of least resistance with who is the guy that goes to the bench. And it is a little weird because Joe was so demonstrative in July saying he's our starting point guard, but you can just explain that away with, well, we didn't know we were getting Jrue Holiday, and so now things have changed. And Derek did it last year, but Derek was supposed to be a bench guy last year, and then ended up starting 60 games because people were perpetually injured. So we'll see if maybe he'll just be the spot starter, and maybe when Al doesn't play the second night of back-to-backs, you just bring him up and go small. And right. But I am curious. I know you think they lean big, and it makes sense because I can't see Al going to the bench. But if it was me, I might start small. And I know you want to go big as much as possible and take advantage of your size, and you're going to definitely probably close games smaller. And right. Derek White better be out there in those situations if we've learned anything over the past couple of years, and especially Miami. So it's not an easy decision. It's an embarrassment of riches for Joe to be able to sit there and have 6 guys that really deserve to play, and yet there's going to be someone's going to be hurt. I don't love we have 8 or 9 starter spin that Joe's been putting out there.
I might ask him, who is your 9th starter, Joe?
Yeah, can you go ahead and if you could list for me your 8 or 9 starters? Yeah, okay. If you're telling me that O'Shea Brissett and Lamar Stevens could start on a team that has Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Holiday, and Kristaps Porzingis, yeah, I get it. I could start for that team and probably be okay. So I appreciate the sentiment, and it's better that he's trying to look out for the people that are 7 through 10 on this roster a little bit more than he did last year, right, Grant Williams? And but let's just call a spade here. It's you've got six potential starters, and it's on you, Joe, to figure out which 5 you should use.
Well, I look forward to seeing Joe not play some of these starters in regular season games. All 9 of them as he opens.
How deep would you go? I mean, it's an easier question to answer once Hauser and Cornette start playing better. But how deep are you going to go on a normal night?
I think we'll see 8 with that last spot, maybe split by 2 guys. So
fair.
So White off the bench, Pritchard off the bench, and then a mix of Cornette and Brissett maybe, or obviously Hauser. Actually, no. Right, no. I'd say 8.5 guys. So
okay,
Hauser I think is safely there as one of the guys off the bench to start the year, and then the last guy is split by Cornette, Brissett, depending on matchups and if they want to play bigger or smaller. So that'd be that's my guess how it starts, but I think it will. I expect that to kind of evolve quickly based on just what you're getting out of these guys. We'll see. I feel like maybe this year that's one of the things we have to look at most for Joe is how quickly is he willing to adapt with that stuff when he has so many options here for those slots.
One thing that we did forget, and I actually forgot to when I was writing my ups and downs, I wouldn't have included him in this, but I will admit, I perk up a little bit when Jordan Walsh is out there. So someone just sent a comment along that said, I hope they develop Walsh and not waste him in the G League. And it's a good point. It's obvious he's got potential. It's, my eyes sort of gravitate towards him when he's out there because he's going to do something, right? And he's going to make mistakes, and he's only 19, and I don't think he's got a roadmap to really kind of muscling past O'Shea or Lamar or anybody like that. but I do hope, he's low budget players who can impact winning are really important. And the other guy I'd throw in there, like J.D. Davison actually kind of, there's
Looked
no
pretty
room
good.
at the point guard position, but like, am I crazy? But I was taking crazy pills, or was he like so much better than a year ago?
Well, it was forget a year ago, 2 months, like summer league, like woof. Like him and
Right.
Banton had some rough times there, but I'm with you. I was like, wow, he's did some pretty solid, not like amazing, but just competent pick and roll play, like good looks, like no turnovers really, and that's the type of stuff that you want to see in year two. And I don't know. Now we have, there's the Celtics have an open 2-way slot now, and I mean, I expect they will have a slot. We'll see what happens with Jay Scrubs' injury here, but I was wondering if Davison was going to be one of those guys just on the bubble of like, is he going to, is he worth keeping around or not for the potential here? But I think that was a very good step forward for him in New York on Monday night on that front.
Yeah, I mean, it almost made me forget about Jan Madar for like a hot minute. The Celtics in there, like, where is Jan Madar on the depth chart right now for potential point guard options? Is he like 7th? And
Yeah.
I think like a summer ago, I would have taken him as the backup point guard. So
Right.
the Celtics have revamped and retooled that position, and guys are stepping up. And hey, maybe that's a good thing. And I was surprised JD came back on a 2-way. Usually guys like that would go through it 1 year and want to be kind of up on that roster. I think the G League could be good for him. He should dominate at that level with that speed. Those games are a little bit more ragged, and I think it's going to be tougher for him to sort of learn the control he needs to play with. But like the intangibles are there. And if he learns to shoot, like that's really kind of an intriguing little project. So I guess that's my way of saying like Maine Celtics games could be fun. If Jordan Walsh does go down there for a little bit, and we'll see what happens with the big spot.
It is.
And who they replace Jay Scrub with.
Right. And some decisions to be made here in the coming weeks. But you know what, Chris Forsberg, that's a half hour. That is weird. I'm putting us on the clock. We cannot talk about preseason basketball more than a half hour. We can't get too far out of ourselves.
Fair.
I think we stayed fair here. I think we stayed. We didn't cross any lines here, overreact too much. But this was a strong start. But you'll be reacting.
Trains are rolling.
Trains are rolling. You'll be able to check Chris out, obviously, all season long on his Celtics Talk pod after every game. Definitely check that out. We'll be back with you guys here at the Winning Plays Pod this week as we the starters return to form in Philly on Wednesday night. The brutal 3 and 4 nights starts the preseason. We'll see what they have in the tank here. But yep. Thanks for listening, guys. Thanks to Chris for hopping on, and we'll talk to you all later this week.